Anthony Grassi here for College.town at the 2026 NCAA Convention. Happy to sit down with the Vice President of Division III, Louise McCleary. Louise,
Hi, Anthony.
thank you for joining me, as always.
I really enjoy doing it. It's great that we get together twice a year, so good to be here with you.
I appreciate it. We'll start how we do with most of these conversations. How would you describe the state of Division III?
So it's probably similar to last year. I will start with what I would say is better news. I think we are doing a lot of wonderful things in Division III, thanks to the leadership of our councils, our committees, especially our championships committee. We've made enhancements to championships, branding, marketing, live streaming is through the roof. Those are all, we have a mental health initiative that we didn't have last year. All positives. But I then have to say, life is really tough on campus. It's tough on campus because of budgets. We are still recovering from a pandemic. We're recovering from an enrollment cliff that's pretty much just starting. And then we have federal and state executive orders that didn't exist when we met last year. All of those are real challenges that our athletic directors, our presidents, our vice presidents are trying to navigate to say we want to maintain that Division III student athlete experience. We're doing it at a national level, but at the end of the day, what their experience on campus, we need to continue to focus on.
I want to talk about some of the legislative items, and we'll touch on a lot of this as we go through. The two, as I sit here, the two most impassioned pieces of legislation, we can call it that, are the redshirt proposal and the multiple AQ bids. We'll start with the redshirt proposal. I wonder how you're thinking the idea of allowing a student athlete to participate in practice but not compete and use a year of eligibility matches with the philosophy statement of Division III that we've discussed multiple times here of a primarily four-year undergraduate experience.
That's right. So I think it all depends on how you're going to vote on it. And I think both sides will say that matches the philosophy statement. And I say that because athletics is changing. It's different today than it was 12 months ago. It's really different than it was 5 years ago. And then when I played a long, long time ago, it's completely different. And so those who are supporting that proposal say, we need to be flexible. We need to understand that student athletes don't always get through in 4 years. Sometimes they need a fifth year for a lot of different reasons. On the flip side, higher education, for the most part, is set up to say it's a 4-year. There are some programs that are 5 years. We know that for our Division III student athletes, we don't have athletic scholarships. So if you choose to stay a fifth year, more than likely you are not going to receive any aid. 80% of our institutions are private. They're expensive. And so there's a worry in that sense. There's a little worry about what will be the administrative burden for compliance officers. You know, on Division III campuses, really small departments. And now if you have a football team, let's say of 130 players, you have to track, did they ever go into a game or not? You can play in a game and not have a stat. Okay, I did go into a game. All right, that's great. So now I only went in for 1 minute. Maybe I need a waiver to be able to get that back. So there's some nuances there that are beyond the philosophy statement. But I think for the philosophy statement, the key word is primarily, and how do you define that? No philosophy statement should be prescriptive. They're guardrails. And right now, typical of Division III, we have one proposal that both sides are using the philosophy statement to support it. And I think that's great. I think in many ways, at least from my seat where I don't have a vote, then we voted in the right philosophy statement, because it's really there to give the guardrails and the reminders, not to dictate how our institutions who have autonomy are going to operate.
Is that a challenge and some of this maybe goes to how different institutions will vote. It comes down to how they think of and their philosophy toward and approach to athletics.
Go ahead. Yeah, I don't know if it's that so much. I just think based on those pressures I talked about, everybody is slightly different in how they're approaching it. If it's adopted, how often will students use the red shirting? I don't know. We know our Division III student athletes, they love competing. They love athletics. But at the same time, every study has told us they're coming to college to graduate, to get a degree and to graduate. Um, we know coming out of high school, many of them may have a semester's worth of credit. So how often will it be used? Will it be used? You have to trust your institutions and your coaches to say, if we're using redshirting, we're using it for all the right reasons to give our student athletes flexibility. If it's not adopted, it probably will reaffirm that the narrow focus of primarily a 4-year undergraduate degree. So we'll see. We'll see how it votes. I don't have a prediction. I think it will be a close vote. And I think no matter how it comes out, we're going to continue to move forward, keeping the student athlete experience as our top priority.
The next step from the second, regardless of whether it passes or not, there's between this and the multi-AQ proposal, which we'll get to in a minute, are, if passed, very large shifts. But regardless of whether they pass, they're both big changes that are being initiated by the membership to have a conversation one way or another of almost to maybe test the guardrails of what that philosophy statement is. Is that, how do you think about how that philosophy statement maybe leads to 5 years, the date that everybody seems to know now is 2032 when the championships expire, the championship contracts expire. How do those things kind of mesh?
Yeah, so, we just voted in our new philosophy 2 years ago. When the membership voted it in, I think there's a thought that we voted it in for it to last the way the last one did, for 4 decades plus. To have a proposal that maybe challenges it, in Division III, we have graduate eligibility now. We never had that before. Does that bump up against the 4-year, primarily a 4-year? Some would say yes, some would say no. And so I don't know, and I don't think the majority of the membership doesn't want to go back and say, let's revisit our philosophy statement. I think we're doing a Division III analysis. It's more, is there misalignment with our current bylaws and legislation with our philosophy statement? Are there tensions that are occurring within the division because we are so diverse, because we do have pressures outside of the NCAA that we need to have those conversations? And that's what we're going to do over the next 6 to 10 months to say, let's talk about it. Let's find out where the real tensions are that are within the NCAA, where we have an opportunity, our structure, to find a solution, and then research it, get the data, engage the membership, and then make proposals to have change.
That analysis, just to clarify for everybody out there, how much of the bylaw, all of the bylaws, will it touch, given that, the interpretation is legislative, we just went through 13 and 16.
Yep.
How far will that analysis reach, and how quickly between all the steps of figuring out maybe identifying the tension points, surveying, then there's the actual legislative process to go through that, how fast can or should some of those changes come to fruition?
So I'll answer your first question, to be determined.
Okay.
We need to know what the issues are. We need to know what the tension points are within Division III. Once we know that, then we'll be able to figure out how we move forward. When we did a study with DIII a few years ago, what I learned is I don't think we can do it in 3 or 4 months the way they did it, right? The NCAA just did another study with DIII, took 6 months. But at the same time, I'm not sure our membership would like to have an analysis that goes 2, 3, 4 years. Let's find out what the issues are. We can look, other divisions have done working groups to say, let's do a study. And most of those have fallen within a 12-month period. So we're going to shoot for the same thing.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, Anthony, our President's Council owns it. They will make that final determination.
Is there given, how different schools feel maybe that others are approaching athletics, and the tension that can create, which seems to be the interest in the 2 proposals that one which we have, one we will discuss. Yep. Is there a challenge in identifying, or the picture being big enough, I guess I should say, where obviously there's a lot within the current framework of Division III that can be looked at, but the longer term hypothetical maybe of what could be in 6 years, I guess, will that be a part of the analysis as well? Is it limited to what is right now versus what could be in the future?
That's right. So if we do it right, you acknowledge what is now, but you always are looking down the road.
Okay.
I think a good analysis, what I've learned from Deloitte, from others, is that you want to see, not today necessarily, but what's going to happen in 2 years, 4 years, maybe 6 years. You don't want to get much beyond that. And I think that's what we're going to do with this analysis. Once we figure out what the tension points are, to say, all right, it's not necessary. If it's today, how is it going to impact us in a few years? I think that's really critical as we go through this.
We'll move to the multi-AQ proposal.
Sure.
How, and the rationale given from the individuals who propose it,
Yep.
Was more of is in line with the AQs are awarded to members with 6, or
That's
conferences
correct.
with 6 members, excuse
Yep.
me. And a simple math
Yep.
equation to get to that. Is there a limit in your mind of how many AQs is 2 AQs if hypothetically it were to pass?
If it passed, and I'm not going to get it absolutely correctly, but let's take our larger brackets, men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball, men's and women's basketball. We have a 64-team bracket. For the most part, we usually have AQs or at-larges in the range of 20 to 25. Not absolutely accurate, but in the ballpark.
Yeah.
If this passes, those at-larges will probably shrink to the 11 to 15 range. We've heard this all the time. The AQ has been beneficial because it's helped grow sports maybe outside of a region where it's really popular. So field hockey, really, it's heavy in New England. Is it helping it grow in the Midwest, or with women's lacrosse, or with men's lacrosse? Very similar. Well known in the Midwest. Is it going to, or in the New England, is it now going to be better in the Midwest? To have 2 AQs, understand the proposal, but I think what the membership needs to decide is, are you then going to have the top teams? We just adopted NPI to help us say, once we get through the AQs, those remaining 20 to 25 at-larges are the highest remaining ranked teams to get in, which means that is, based on our current structure, the best teams to go to the championship. This would disrupt that. But if at the end of the day, that's what the membership wants as they are building conferences, their stability to have larger conferences, then that's a membership vote. But so much work has been done on the front end to say, how do we pick the best at-larges? We value the AQ. How do we, though, then get the best at-larges? It would be, if it's adopted, it would bump up against that new software that we're now using. We're in year 2 of it.
What would you say the goal of championships is in Division III? I guess to frame that up for you. The people that push back against the AQ proposal would say that what is the purpose of the championship? What is the purpose of the AQ? Are we trying to have the best? Are we trying to have the best teams? Are we trying to maximize access? There's a balance, obviously, between the two. Right. From your perspective, how do you kind of view that?
Right. So we've always viewed championships. It's a pinnacle of success, and that doesn't mean winning a national championship. Right. There is a significant focus on conference championships. That makes all the sense in the world. But how exciting is it when you win a conference and go, I now get to go to the pinnacle, which is the NCAA championships. That would go counter to this particular proposal. But that is what we have. I don't think it's just Division III. I think Division II and Division I to say, to be able to do that, that's a win. That is a win for our student athletes to say, I was able to compete in an NCAA championship. If they have the opportunity to win a national championship, that's the cherry on top. And what a great experience for them. But for us, it's how do you provide that next level opportunity when you go ahead and win your conference championship?
One of the other things that will be on the docket, not a piece of legislation, is the resolution around NIL.
Yep.
What do you believe the role of NIL should be within Division III?
Yep. So I'm going to switch it a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if I know what the role of NIL should be in Division III, but I know NIL is coming to Division III.
Okay.
It's here. It's talked about a ton. It's on social media platforms that I don't even know the name to, nor do I know how to access. And I say that because every high school student athlete has read something about it. And so I think what we need to do in Division III, our administrators are pretty thin. They're overloaded. They're working a ton. How do we carve out space so that we can give them the tools to make sure that they're educating their student athletes who are asking about NIL? That's one of the most important steps for us to do. The resolution, I think it's going to pass. I'll go out, I'll use my crystal ball because this will come out after the vote. But it's important for us, our President's Council in particular, committees that support the President's Council, to say, what else do we need to do in this space? Probably the first step with that is to survey the membership to say, what do you think we need? Because it's coming. And are we prepared to make sure our administrators have the tools and to make sure that we're educating our student athletes in this space?
Actually, 2 more follow-ups on NIL.
Sure.
Do you believe there should be collectives within Division III? And obviously, that's an institutional decision, or institution by institution decision, that their relationship with their alumni and supporters. But do you think the presence of them, as an outside entity?
I think collectives have caused issues probably in all Division I, Division II, and Division III.
That's a fair estimate,
right? So there have been some legislative changes in Division I to say, how do we bring some things in-house so that we can have a bit more control over how we're educating our student athletes and those opportunities, right? So I think for Division III, we just don't have that capacity. So I don't know if collectives are good because it's outside of what you're trying to do. They may not have the knowledge. They may not understand your mission. They may not understand what you're trying to do for all of your student athletes. And so then it becomes like, okay, what are you telling them? And are you telling them and reinforcing what we've been saying to our student athletes every single day, the first day they stepped on campus? But right now, we know that our administrators, to pull some of that in-house, there's just not the space for it.
Right.
And that's why we're going to have, if the resolution passes, to say, what can we do? What can we do to help our institutions, help our conference offices, with the ultimate goal of helping our student athletes understand what this whole new space is really about?
Do you have a concern as NIL becomes more prevalent within the division, of it creating more of this word may sound dramatic, but a chasm maybe between the schools that have more resources and those that do not?
I don't have that concern. I have a concern that it will not be used the way that NIL is. There's so many good things about it. I was talking to somebody today and I said, if you have, we'll use soccer. You have a soccer player that writes a book about being a soccer student athlete and how it's helped them lead. They can now do that with NIL. If they want to use their skills to teach others, they can do that with NIL. But what you're always reading about is, oh, we'll just give you some money and just show up and you can be our starting, name whatever position you would like to be. All the good, we need to bottle somehow. And so I'm not sure, yes, higher resource institutions, I think what they're going to be able to do is go find third parties to help them with NIL. But I think some of our smaller institutions in local communities are going to get some pressures to go, oh, but we want you to get X player, and can we give you some money? So all those different issues, this is what this resolution's about, to say we got to look at them and we have to listen to our membership of how do you need us to help you, because the space is here. And there's a lot of good, but we also know that NIL can be used in a manner that is less good.
I want to talk about some of the positives. We've talked about a whole bunch of stuff that's going on tomorrow. We'll talk about something we talked a lot about last time we sat down a year ago. The introduction and the first, year through of the mental health first aid partnership.
Yep.
The reception that you've heard from the membership and how it's impacted student athletes on campuses around Division III.
Yep. So when we spoke a year ago, we hadn't quite signed it.
Correct.
So we
were
signed
going
it.
to.
We signed it in April. So April's
8
somebody
months.
will do 8 months. Thank you. To date, we've had a third of our membership institutions either be trained or to sign up for a training. This program for Division III, where we'll pay for up to 30 individuals on each campus to get trained, which means they'll get a 3-year certification in mental health first aid, runs all the way through August of 2027. We at the national office took the training because I wanted to see what it was all about. Everything we have heard that's been reported back to us has been, it's a game changer. We are not putting out mental health counselors, but what we are doing, what the data shows, 1 in 3 high school student athletes are going to come to college having had a mental health crisis or concern or issue. That it is preparing our coaches and our administrators, and especially our athletic trainers, if they get trained, how do I recognize it? How do I acknowledge it? And how do I help that individual get to the right place so that it can be addressed to help them? 210,000 student athletes in Division III. If we can get to 60, 70% of our campuses go through the training, we're on small campuses, we're going to impact, I think, not only, let's say, 160,000 Division III student athletes, but all of their friends. And that's a game changer. And so far, all the feedback has been incredibly positive. Mental health first aid has been a terrific program for us. I'm thrilled that we were able to sign that, and even happier that we can provide it to our institutions.
You're trying to this last big topic of streaming. You mentioned the numbers for this past year have been really good. The partnership with Huddle to have all the championships that are not within another media agreement be in one place.
Yep.
I imagine helped viewership as well. What was the, I guess, like tangible numerical impact maybe on having all that in one place, growth year over year on ESPN Plus, and the your long-term thought on where D3 media rights, maybe more so specifically outside of the ESPN stuff, should, and live in the cap on basically how big it can get in your mind.
That's right. So we're playing the long game. Mm-hmm. So last year was the first time that we required any of our hosts, if they were hosting a team host, any round had to be live streamed. So you mentioned we partnered with Huddle, and we said, okay, do we want it to be, if we have soccer, 16 different first round institutions are hosting 16 different sites, or no? Why don't we have it in one location, NCAA.com? So we did that. Last year, between that and our ESPN Plus agreement, 65 million minutes of viewing, 65 million touches with the Division III brand. I'm fairly competitive. I would love to have over 100 million this year. The fall minus the ESPN numbers for women's volleyball quarterfinals, semis, and championship, and every round of football, we had about 12.5 million minutes of viewing. It's up 8% from last year. So we're moving in the right direction. The reason I said we're playing the long game, I would like to build it year over year. The more we grow it, once we have better control over our media rights agreement, it's the entire NCAA, or will we be positioned to say, now we can sell ads, and depending on if we have established the brand well enough, do you put it behind a paywall? But I think where we can, the first step, we got to build it. We got to get the viewers, which I think we're doing, then say, okay, now we have control. Let's make sure we can get a revenue source through either ads or through a subscription.
Do you have a concern about that paywall, either association specific, or obviously as a lot of members have gone behind the paywall?
I don't for the members. You know, they are signing agreements where it is beneficial for them to go behind a paywall. Mm-hmm. They have, I believe, a set audience. They know who wants to watch their live streams, their regular season and conference playoff live streams. That's a good business decision for them. For us, because if we go behind a paywall, we know, because we've saw it happen with other divisions, probably the viewership's going to drop 50%. We're trying to build our brand. We want the world to know when you come to Division III, it is a high caliber athletic experience. We're not there yet. So that's one reason we don't want to put it behind a paywall. And the other reason is right now we wouldn't get that revenue back to Division III. So as long as we can walk this line of not putting it behind a paywall, that helps our brand because we're going to keep having increased viewership. And right now we know it's not a direct revenue to us. So that's the resistance.
Completely understand.
It won't last forever, but really building the brand. If folks had an opportunity to watch any of our, fall championships or last year, they know that if you're an NCAA student athlete, it's an elite club. Only 500,000 get to do it, and we have about 40% of those.
Excellent. Louise, thank you so much for joining me here in DC.
Anthony, always a pleasure. Thank you.